again, everyone, it's me, MadameMacabre, and welcome to another video. First of all, I must say, happy Friday the 13th, everyone. It's always fun when we have one of these come around, but today's Friday the 13th is very special, because not only is it, of course, Friday the 13th, but it's also a full moon, and on top of that, a full harvest moon. Plenty of, interesting juju to go around. It's when all the crazy people come out. In all seriousness, though, I thought it would be a fun occasion in which to pull out another one of my own personal creepy experiences. So, interestingly enough, recently I have reconnected with an old, and I mean old, back from elementary school friend. We chatted a bit online, and somehow through the conversation, this little incident was brought up, and oh boy! If you're wondering why I have not told this story as of yet, it's because apparently it was something that was so unsettling, so disturbing for young me. I must have repressed it because I had completely forgotten all about this until it was brought up to me, and then it all came slamming back into my brain, and oh boy, I gotta share it with you guys. So like I mentioned, this was in elementary school, so it was just a wee madam back then. It was probably, I want to say I was like 11 or 12 when I first heard the rumblings of this, and the actual story itself takes place more when I'm like 12, 13. So basically, you know how it is when you're a kid and your local community, your school, your area, you all have your own little local urban legends and scary stories, things that you kind of hear whisperings about amongst the children to scare each other. Well, my area had our own urban legend. It was the KNIFE HOBO. He would go and apparently appear near sunset and nighttime around different vacant lots around the city, where people would, catch sightings of him looming eerily with a knife. I don't know what KNIFE hobos do, but as a kid, you don't question these things, okay? He appeared in vacant lots, that was his thing. And he stood there menacingly with a knife. Of course, kids had stories of, oh, he chased me one time and this and that and this and that. But that's the majority of that's it. That's the story. So with that little bit of lore out of the way, we can move on to the next part of the story. Back when I was in elementary school, there was still a lot of undeveloped land and a lot of vacant lots. And there was actually one in my neighborhood. And me and the neighboring kids and all our friends, we liked to hang out in said vacant lot. It was fun to play in. We knew of the urban legend, but we also knew that according to the urban legend, he only showed up at nighttime. And since when this first happened, we were like 11, 12 years old, we went home before it got dark because we didn't want to get yelled at. So it was fun. We never encountered problems. We rode our bikes there, we played games, we had tons of fun, and we always packed up and headed home before the sun began to set, and we never had any sightings of the elusive KNIFE HOBO. I mean, here and there we would find signs of homelessness, like trash in different areas left behind in the vacant lot, but that in itself wasn't particularly unusual or like a red flag that it is the KNIFE HOBO. It was just trash. Anyway, so nothing really happened. We love to play in this lot. Cue a little bit of time moving forward. We're in the next grade or two. We're like 12, 13 now. We're like headed out of elementary school into middle school. And we're older. We think we're tougher. We think we're braver. And along with this, our parents have extended our curfew a little bit. So we decide it's okay to start hanging out in the vacant lot closer to sunset. And this is the point at which the story starts to get a little more interesting, because we began to notice as we were staying later into the evening, we would occasionally catch glimpses of a man hanging around like the very far edges close to the street of the vacant lot. We never got a really good look. He was always far away, and he wouldn't hang around long. He'd just be there and then pop away. Didn't think too much of it because it never really led to anything. Yet. See, it was one day in particular where things really got creepy, and that was sort of the end of our fun time at the vacant lot. One day, my friends and I, we had actually taken up to playing this I guess you could kind of call it LARPing. I don't know. We basically had an almost Dungeons and Dragons type game that we would play with our imaginations, kind of in the real world, out in the vacant lot, and we turned that lot kind of into our little fantasy world. Like, there was kind of a big, steep dirt hill towards the very back center of the vacant lot, and that was our guild headquarters. So a lot of the time we'd leave our bikes up top there. We kind of like built little benches and a bonfire pit and all that up there. And in these, you know, those thick bushes with the yellow flowers, I think it's some kind of weed, I don't know. But there was tons of those in that lot, and we'd kind of hollow the bushes out and make them into stores and houses, and we all had our own little rooms and stuff. Well, one day while we were playing our little game out in the lot, we noticed a man lingering again. It was still too far away to see much detail, but this time, instead of just like watching for a little bit and going away, he stayed for like a good solid 10 to 15 minutes, to the point where we were starting to get uneasy and we wanted to leave. But the way that the lot was, you have the lot here. Here at this end is where the big hill with our guild base is and all our bikes and stuff. This is the end of the lot that faces off to a street and how we'd get out of there. It backs into like a more steep, like cliff hill type area where it's not really safe to go back there. So the only way to really get out would be to get out this way. And of course, the creepy dude was standing over here, kind of blocking us off at the pass. So we were starting to get real anxious. However, after that 10-15 minutes, he just like stopped looking at us and just walked away. So we waited a little bit longer, and then we got on our bikes and we went home, and we didn't see him anymore. It was really uneasy, but we're like, okay, that's fine. So we go to school, we do all the things, and we're all talking about how excited we are to get back to our game at the vacant lot after we finish all the stuff and meet up again. Well, we go out there the next day after school, and our little D&D world has been violently trashed. I mean, completely destroyed. All the little houses and buildings, like, burrowed into the bushes, crushed down, all the little art pieces inside, torn apart, like, the entire thing. The bonfire pit up on the guild thing, tossed everywhere. This entire area, absolutely trashed. Honestly, we were so heartbroken over this, we actually stopped playing there for like a week straight. We just needed some time to like grieve the loss of our beautiful land and wondering who would do this. Like, none of the neighborhood kids around us had an issue with it. They were either all allowed to play with us or they didn't have an interest in it, but there was no malice. So we're just like, okay, someone just, we don't know who did it, but gosh, that, you know, it broke our spirit for a little while. However, you know, being kids, we eventually just really wanted to get back into playing again. So about a week later, we decided to meet up, a couple of us, and try to start to rebuild our little city. There were 4 of us left. Me, a friend who lived a few blocks over, a neighbor, and her brother. And we were all between 12 and 13. So we had been hanging out all day working on rebuilding this little city of ours. I think it was a weekend, so we didn't have school or anything like that, so we had literally the whole day, because I remember being there forever. And we had made a ton of progress, and we had got it almost as good as it had been. But by the time we were like, yeah, this is a satisfying point to stop at, we realized that the sun had started to set. Now, the smart part of my brain is like, okay, time to go. It's creepy when it's late. I don't want to be here anymore. But the allure of staying, my neighbor's brother, who is a little bit older, had offered to build a bonfire in our little fire pit in the guild headquarters on the top of the hill. We didn't often actually do real fires because we were all scared of actually burning things down. But with the older brother being like, I'll set it. I know how to do it safely. I did scouts. So it was going to have a real fire and a real bonfire pit, and it was going to be a lot of fun. So I didn't want to be the only one to miss out on that. So we all climbed up to the top of that little hill at the back of the vacant lot, built the bonfire, sat around it. You know, we had our bikes up at the top of the hill with us, and it got darker and darker until night had completely fallen. Now, mind you, this was, again, back before cell phones were a common thing. None of us had cell phones. It just, you didn't have them then. I'm showing my age, I'm sorry. But I digress. The lack of cell phones, I think, is what makes this even more eerie, because you can't easily call for help. Anyway, so we're sitting around this bonfire, and we're enjoying ourselves and we're talking and we're telling stories to scare each other and all that. And I can't help but notice every now and then I can hear like the sound of shrubs rustling or a branch snapping here or there. And I'm thinking it's nighttime, yeah, critters and stuff may be coming out, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. And a little bit of time passed, and I began to notice that the shuffling and the snapping, it started to sound a little bit louder, like it was closer. And as before, it was just here and there, like not very frequent. Not only was it sounding louder, like it was closer, but it was starting to be quicker, like happening more and louder. So something wasn't right. And that's the point where I brought it up to the other kids at the bonfire, like, is anybody else hearing this? What's going on? I don't feel safe. There's something behind us. I should mention, it was specifically behind us down the backside of the hill, close to where like the cliffside and all that backs off. So at that point, we're all like a bunch of little meerkats, like looking around trying to figure out what's going on. And it's at that moment that with the little bit of light from our small bonfire filtering down into the brush and stuff below, that suddenly we can see the silhouette of a man. And usually in like scary media and things, when like you spot the creepy person, usually they'll freeze or they'll turn around or something else. But in this case, we spotted him, clearly pointed out, look, there's a person there, all that, but they didn't stop. In the same slow but steady pace, this figure, just barely visible from the small light of the little mini campfire, kept moving towards us from the brush, towards the hill we were sitting on. Honestly, I couldn't make out any facial details or anything like that because it was super dark and the light wasn't catching them consistently, but they were headed towards us. And at this point, we lost it. We all flipped out. We hurriedly grabbed our bikes, made sure everybody got all their things, jumped on our bikes, and sped down that hill. I don't think I've ever pedaled a bike harder in my entire life. We powered across that field and didn't stop until we got all the way to the other side, right onto the road where the streetlights had fallen down on us. That's the point where we momentarily paused to look back. And you'd think, again, in scary media, usually they would have skulked off and ran away by then, but I don't know what was up with this dude because he was still there on top of the hill by the little fire now, just standing there looking back at us looking at him. And if that by itself wasn't eerie enough, the part that really, really scared me was that we could see something glinting in his hand, reflecting the light from the fire. And it could have been any number of things, but the child brain going, oh my god, urban legend, it did look a whole lot like it could have been some kind of blade. So, stranger things have happened. Anyway, as any rational 12.5-year-old girl would do, I pedaled straight home and immediately told my parents what had happened. I mean, obviously they weren't thrilled about me being out later than I had initially told them I would be, but as soon as I started babbling about the crazy KNIFE HOBO, they got a lot less concerned about the curfew and more like, excuse me, what? Now, it was so long ago, I don't really remember much else about the conversation and all that with my parents. Just being honest, I don't remember it. I'd tell you if I did. But what I do remember is that for about the next week, I would see a cop car sitting out by the vacant lot when we were like going to school to and from and all that, because it was a street that we did drive by that the vacant lot was on. There was a cop car sitting there for a while. Not sure if anything else ever came of that. Couldn't tell you. But what I can tell you is that that was the last day I was ever allowed to play in that vacant lot. My parents forbade me, as well with my siblings and the neighbor kids, and pretty much all the neighbor kids were no longer allowed to go there. The parents were like, none of you going there. And I tell you what else. I did not argue with them on that one. All right, you guys. Well, that's just about all the time I have for today. I really hope you enjoyed my little personal scary story, and I will catch you all next time with more content for your pleasure. Anyway, I will catch you all later. And until next time, remember, stay creepy.